All right, the next set of directions says to solve for the area and or perimeter of the figure, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. And on these problems, it really should tell you as well on 16, 17, and 18 that these are going to be regular polygons. So I'm going to just kind of make a note of that. These are going to be regular polygons in 16, 17, and 18. It tells you that in 16. It just doesn't mention it in the other ones. So the formula we're going to be using for the area of a regular polygon, let me make sure I color code it the same. These were in pink, so all of these are going to be regular. Where's my highlighter? Y'all, I deleted my pink. Hold on, let's go ahead and delete this then. Let's add the pink back. We always need pink on here. Okay, so we've got our regular polygons. That's in this section and in this section. Our formula for both of those are going to be area equals your apothem times your perimeter divided by 2. Now, some people say apothem. It is what it is, tomato, tomato. So I'm going to say apothem. And so the famous Susan Gifford says apothem, and so I'm going to copy her because she's the queen of geometry. And so the directions say to solve for the area, okay? So in number 16, it doesn't have a picture. It does tell me that it's a hexagon, though, and it says it has an apothem of 2.6. Let's go ahead and just start with the formula. Area equals A times P divided by 2. So I can go ahead and fill in my apothem. My apothem is going to be 2.6 feet, so 2.6 times my perimeter. Now, it doesn't give me the perimeter. I'm sorry, y'all. It gives me a side length of 3 feet. So if my side length is 3 feet and I have a hexagon, well, a hexagon is 6 sides, so that's going to be 3 times 6. So what is my perimeter? My perimeter is 18. So this is going to be 2.6 times 18, and then that's going to be divided by 2. And so we're just going to type that in, 2.6 times 18, 46.8, and then you divide that by 2, and you get exactly 23.4 feet squared, because this is area. So 23.4 feet squared. Even though I don't have a picture, that is the area of that regular polygon, because they do tell me that it's regular. All right, number 17. It's another regular polygon because we added that to our directions. So we have our apothem times our perimeter divided by 2. So what is my apothem? My apothem is going to be 15. So I get to plug that in. Area equals 15. Now we just need to calculate our perimeter. So our side length is 18. And then how many sides do I have in this shape? We'll have a total of 5 sides, all of 18 units each. So that's going to be a perimeter of 18. Why isn't it letting me write right there? That's weird. 18 times 5. What is 18 times 5? Well, that gives me a perimeter of 90. And I'm going to end up dividing that by 2 to find my area. So it's going to be 15 times 90 is 1350. And then that divided by 2 is going to give me an area exactly of 675. There's no units listed, so I'm just going to write units squared. So I make sure to include my units, even if they don't list any. All right, our last regular polygon in this section, we're given a side length and an apothem. So I'm going to do A times P divided by 2. So there is my apothem. It's 4. It has that right angle on it. It's the height of one of those triangles. My perimeter is all the way around the outside of the shape. We always say bring it around town in class. So that is going to be 14 times 3. 14 times 3 is going to give me a perimeter of 42. So my perimeter is going to be, we're going to go area equals 4 is my apothem times my perimeter of 42. And then we're going to end up dividing that by 2. A times P divided by 2. So 4 times 42 is 168. When we divide that by 2, we're going to get 84 units squared. So you can go U squared, or you can write out the word units either way. Since they don't have units listed, we're just going to write units squared. Now the next section is a little bit harder because while the previous 3 we were given a side length so we could quickly calculate our perimeter, and we're also given our apothem, we're going to be missing some of those pieces of information on these. So it says round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So you can see on this first problem, this is a hexagon. So we're going to start with our formula. Area equals A times P divided by 2. So what is it really easy to calculate? Well, because you have the 12 and this is a hexagon, I can very easily calculate my perimeter. So to find my perimeter, I'm going to do 12 times 6. What do I get when I do 12 times 6? That gives me a perimeter of 72. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in my formula. I've got my perimeter. I just need my apothem. And so to find our apothem, we're going to draw it in. So the first thing you need to do is put a dot in the middle of the hexagon, draw in a radius to here, that creates a triangle. And then the apothem is going to be the height of that triangle. So straight down to the bottom. And remember, so that's an A, not a 9. And so that's our apothem. We need to find it. Remember to find this angle at the top. What we're going to do, let me change colors. To find this angle, remember, well, this is going to be a full 360. So 360 divided by 6 gives me 60 degrees. And then that apothem is going to split that into 2. So even though that's a 60-degree angle, from here to here is 60. I'll do that in purple. From there to there is 60. When you divide that by 2, the apothem splits it in half. So there's going to be a 30-degree angle on this side and a 30-degree angle on this side. Why is that significant? Well, this turns it into a 30, 60, 90 triangle on both sides. And so I'm going to work with the one on the right. And so a 30, 60, 90 triangle, and it says that this has a side length of 12. Well, what does the apothem do to the side length of 12? The apothem is going to divide this side length into a 6 and 6. And so what we have right now is the short leg of a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So how do I get to my long leg? We're going to multiply times the square root of 3. And so my apothem is going to be equal to 6 root 3. So that looks scary, but it's really not. We're going to let our calculators do that work. That's going to be 6 root 3. We're going to click enter after that so we don't have to use extra parentheses. 6 square root of 3 is 10.39230.485. Keep that in your calculator. We multiply that by 72, and then we divide that by 2. We're going to round at the very, very, very end. And so this is going to give me an area of approximately, when you round it at the end, 374.1 inches squared. So we don't round until the very end. So my apothem was 6 root 3 because this was a 30, 60, 90 triangle. All right, my next problem is a square, and we said pay attention when you have a square because we know that the area of a square is just base times height. So if they give me that the perimeter, the whole thing around the outside is 56, well, what can I do with the 56? Well, I can take 56 and I can divide it by 4. What is 56 divided by 4? It's 14. So if each of these sides are 14, we know that this is a square because it's a regular quadrilateral. How do you find the area of a square? You could just do the side length squared or base times height. So I would just do that. That's the easiest thing to do is going to be to do side length squared or just 14 times 14. Could you go through and do the regular polygon formula and get the same thing? Absolutely, but this is way easier and way faster. So 196 centimeters squared is my area of this square. So whenever it is we could use a times p divided by 2, but you'd still get 196. So this is just a little bit quicker. So this is, I'm going to make a note, this is a square. So a regular quadrilateral is always going to be a square. All right, let's look at this next one. This is a regular octagon, so it has 8 sides, and it has a side length of 10, meaning that each of these sides is 10. So what does that mean? It's really, really easy to find. It's going to be really, really easy to find my perimeter. If its area equals lowercase a, apothem, times perimeter divided by 2, well, my perimeter is going to be equal to 10 times 8. So 10 times 8 is going to give me a perimeter of, let's do that in yellow. I don't like this. Sorry, y'all. This is for my answer key, so I'm being a little bit picky. Perimeter is going to be equal to 10 times 8, so that's going to be a perimeter of 80. So we're going to do, got our perimeter. We need to find our apothem, though. Here's my perimeter. I need to find my apothem. So there's 80. We're going to end up dividing by 2. We just need to find our apothem. Okay, so we need to find the number that goes right there. So let's draw it in. The very first thing we always do is draw in our center, connect a radius to create this triangle that's the same all the way around the shape, and a radius on this side. The apothem is going to be the height of that. So what does the apothem do to that side length of 10? It breaks it into a piece that's 5 and a piece that's 5. How do we find this angle? Well, we take 360 and we divide it by 8. So 360 divided by 8, I believe is going to give me 45, but let me check. Yes, so that's going to be a 45-degree angle. That's this piece from here to here. Well, what is 45 divided by 2? Because that apothem splits it in half as well. That is going to give me 22.5. So let me do that in a darker color. That is going to give me a 22.5-degree angle here and a 22.5-degree angle here. So on this problem, we're going to have to use some trig. We can't use 30, 60, 90 rules or 45, 45, 90 rules because these are not those special triangles. So we're going to have to use some trig. And so remember to use trig, we've got to figure out what trig function it is. So from 22.5, 5 is opposite. And then our your apothem is your adjacent. So that's going to be some tangent. So the tangent of 22.5 degrees is going to be equal to its opposite, which is 5, over its adjacent, which is A. So I'm going to put this over 1 and I'm going to cross multiply. When I do that, I end up getting A times the tangent of 22.5 is equal to 5. So this is going to be 5 divided by the tangent of 22.5 when you cross multiply. So what is my apothem? It looks scary, but it's going to be 5 divided by the tangent of 22.5. Okay, so we're going to type that in. 5 divided by the tangent of 22.5 gives me 12.071067881. Take that and multiply it by 80, and then divide that by 2. What do we get for our area of this shape? Our area of this shape is going to give me 482.8 about when you round it at the very, very end. So again, we're not going to round these until the end. That is going to be km squared, so kilometers squared. Okay, so that one was a little bit harder just because we had to use trig on that problem. All right, let's do these last 3. A regular hexagon, meaning it has 6 sides, and so we're going to start with our formula. Area equals apothem times perimeter divided by 2. And so it has an apothem, it says, of 2. So I'm going to draw that in. My apothem is going to be given as 2, so that's a right angle on each side. The apothem is 2. And we want to find our side length, because I can go ahead and plug in my formula. The apothem, I have it. It's going to be 2. I'm going to multiply that by my perimeter, whatever it is, and then I'm going to divide by 2. So let's find our perimeter of this shape. Well, how do you find the perimeter? We need to find this piece of the right triangle. So I'm going to call that x. So how do I find the entire angle? Well, that's going to be 360 divided by 6. So 360 divided by 6 gives me 30. Nope, it gives me 60. And then what do you do? What does that apothem do to it? Well, that splits it into 2 equal pieces. So that's going to give me 30 degrees on each side. So this is a 30-degree angle, and then this is a 30-degree angle. So this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle where we want the short leg, and we have that the long leg is 2. So how do we get from here to here? We are going to divide by root 3. So x is going to be equal to, it looks scary, but it's not. X is going to be equal to 2 divided by root 3. So what is my half of my side length? It's 2 divided by root 3. So what do I end up doing to that? Well, to find the perimeter, I'm going to write this out just so you can see it. Your perimeter is going to be 2, just make a note of this, 2 divided by root 3. You're going to multiply that by 2 to get a full side length. And then once you know the full side length, we have to multiply that by 6. So 2 divided by root 3 is 1.154. It keeps going. We multiply that by 2 to get the full side length, because 2 of those is going to be the full side length. And then 6 of those is going to be the full perimeter. So what I'm going to do is in my formula, I'm just going to write P. In my calculator, I know that that is equal to 13.856. Going and going. We're going to take that number, multiply it by 2, and then we'll ultimately end up dividing it by 2. And so that is going to give me a perimeter of, an area, when you round it, of 13.9 meters squared. So we round at the very, very, very end. So that one was a little bit harder simply because we had to store some of that in our calculator. Okay. All right, so what about a regular pentagon? Well, let's go ahead and do this again. It has a radius of length 8. So when we draw in our radius, it's going to be 8. This radius, kind of like the left side of the tent, is going to be 8. So we're going to end up needing my apothem, and we're going to end up needing my side, which is going to be x. Part of my side is what I should say. And so let's find this angle. Again, we find that angle by doing 360 divided by 5. What is 360 divided by 5? I think that that's 72, but let me check just to make sure. That is 72. And so when you do 72 and you take the apothem and you split it, 72 divided by 2 is going to give me 36 degrees. So 36 degrees on this side, 36 degrees on this side. So I'm going to have to use trig here. I'm going to have to use trig more than once. And so from this 36-degree angle, the x is going to be opposite. The 8 is going to be hypotenuse. And so I'm going to use sine. So that's going to be the sine of 36 degrees equals x over 8. So you're going to cross multiply. So x in yellow, that little piece, is going to be equal to 8 times the sine of 36. So how do you find your perimeter? Your perimeter is going to be equal to that x, 8 times the sine of 36. We have to double it to make it the side length. And then once that's the side length, I have 5 of those in this shape. And so when I plug that into my formula, I'm just going to do P for perimeter. We know that that's going to be in my calculator. How do I find my apothem? So this is going to be a little bit more complicated. How do I find my apothem? Well, from my 36, this is my adjacent, and this is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to use cosine to find the apothem. Cosine of 36 degrees is equal to A over 8. So when you cross multiply, my apothem is going to be 8 times the cosine of 36. So what do you plug in for your apothem? 8 times the cosine of 36. Okay, so there's my apothem. I'm going to put that in a box. There's my apothem. We know that the perimeter is going to be the thing that we calculate, and that's all going to be multiplied times each other and then divided by 2. So let's type this in. The perimeter is going to be 8 sine 36. Double that to get the side length. So 8 sine of 36, enter. Double that to get the side length. Multiply that by 5 to get the perimeter. That's about 47. You multiply that by 8 times the cosine of 36, and then you divide that by 2. So this is the most complicated one we have so far. If we had one like this on the test where you had to do all of this extra work, we would make this a bonus question. So 152.2, that is going to be, what are my units? Feet squared. So 152.2 feet squared of area on the inside of this shape. That's the hardest one we've done so far. All right, number 4, we said, or 24, we said to pay attention when it's a square because there are quicker ways to get squares usually. Okay, so what does it have? Well, it has a radius of 4 meters. So again, this is the right side of the tent whenever you create a radius. So this is 4 as well. We know that whenever you do 360 divided by 4, that gives you a 90-degree angle. So 360 divided by 4 gives you 90. And then 90 divided by 2, because that apothem is going to split it into 2, is going to create a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay? And so how do you get to the apothem from your hypotenuse? Well, we know that the apothem is going to be the same thing as this piece of the side length, which I'm going to call x. So x is going to be equal to 4 divided by root 2. And then a is going to also be equal to 4 divided by root 2. So we're getting smaller, so we divide. So several ways you could do this, but we could also find the full side length and then double, or find x and then double it and then square that, because that's going to be side length squared. So several ways you can do this. I'm just going to do the normal formula. So my area is going to be equal to the apothem, which we just found was 4 divided by root 2. And then that's going to be times my perimeter. Well, how do I find my perimeter? My perimeter is going to be equal to 4 over root 2 times 2 times 4. Okay, so that's going to be my calculator. I'm going to do that divided by 2. Okay, so let's type that in. 4 divided by square root of 2 gives me 2.828, and it keeps going. We multiply that by 2 to find the side length, and then there are 4 of those. So that's about 22.6. We then multiply that by 4 divided by square root of 2. And we divide that by 2. That gives me a total perimeter, a total area of 32, what is that, meters squared. Because when you do 4 divided by root 2 times 2, 4 divided by root 2, and then you double that, that is going to give me a side length that then I square, and that turns into 32. Okay, so 32 meters squared. All right. What we're going to do next is I'm going to make a new video for the composite figures. Just know when we're going over these that number 23 and number 24 would be really, really good bonus style questions, but those do have a lot more work in them. Okay? So we'll keep practicing those in class.